Hey everyone, I want to take a moment to talk about now when you should be using something like X bar and S. So this is the average and the standard deviation, as opposed to using something like the 5-number summary. Remember, this one is the one that uses the median and quartile 1, quartile 3, min, and max. All right, so we basically have these two ideas. This idea with the average and standard deviation is that when graphs start to get skewed, it does a poor job. Standard deviation is supposed to be for this normal bell-shaped curve where we're expecting 68%, and we've talked about this before, like this idea. It does a poor job. You had an example in here where you had two sets of data, one that was really kind of skewed right, and another set of data that kind of was skewed to the left. And both of these sets of data had the same average and the same standard deviation. So when we're taking a look at that, that makes it a little bit tougher to tell, and that's when we sometimes want to use a box plot, that 5-number summary in here. So I'm just going to jump back over to the data we were just working with. So here it is, and just a quick reminder in finding the box plot. So here I want the minimum of column B. Oops, and let's just slide this over just a little bit so we can see that. So there's my minimum. I'm going to do quartile, or the median, I'll put it right here, equals the median of column B. And here's the maximum of column B. And then I want quartile 1, so equals quartile, and let's do this one. Let's do quartile. I just want B column B. This is the old one, but I like this. The 1 is the first quartile. And then equals quartile B column, or colon B comma 3. That's the third quartile. So there's my 5-number summary. Basically what that's telling me, again in that box plot idea, is that I have, I'm going to use these for the things, like my lowest number is 1.2. Actually, I'll do it the way, this is the frequency of them. I'm going to say my lowest number is 1.2, so I'm going to do my box plot sideways. So that's right around, so remember, here's 0, here's 5, here's 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. The way they do that, I don't like it. So 1.2, I'm going to say, is right about here. All right, I'm going to go, that's the first whisker, up until I get to 3.8. So here's that first quartile, and this is where I start my box. Up to 6.3, so we're going right here. It's a little bit further to the left, but that's 6.3 to 12.5. So we're gradually getting a little bit further over here. About halfway in between, and man, why does it keep doing that on me? Alright, I just gotta not press that button. And then it reaches way over to 27.2. Alright, so again, lowest number 1.2, median number 6.3, largest number that I just had here, over here, 27.2. This really helps me see that I have a lot of data right here, and it's skewed very far to the right. So when I'm talking about a 5-number summary, I can usually look at this 5-number summary and say, like, look at how much of my data is way over in between this. I mean, my average is 6.3. It's like halfway between 12 and 1 almost, which really helps me see that that number is way stretched out. And when I put that graph together, you can see it. Now, I showed a histogram here so you can see it, but if I were just to tell you that the average is 6.3, and the standard deviation the average was 8.4, and the standard deviation was 6.0. The median was 6.3, not the average. But anyway, if I would have said that, I mean, to me, again, we're usually thinking in terms of this, that we're going to have, here's 8.4, and we're going to have some data over here at 14.4 and 2.4. But if you remember that graph, we don't have much data going much further than 2.4. It goes over to negative 4.4. Remember that idea. We actually have a lot of the data in this graph is really, really high at 2.4, and it stretches out, so it's kind of skewed in that direction. So again, sometimes recognizing when to use and not to use the type of graph to show something is important. But that's kind of comparing how that box plot compared to using that 5-number summary, which uses the median as the measure of center, as opposed to the standard deviation and the average as the measure of center. And if you look at this graph in particular, it's really easy to see how you might assume that your average would be over in here. Your average is way over on the left-hand side of this graph. Remember the average we pointed on this other one when I did it. The average was way over here at 8.4. And it also helps us see that typically in a graph, when we are working with this thing, is that with a graph that has a tail that kind of goes out to the right, our median is here, but our average gets pulled towards that. So we talked about that in one of the earlier video lessons, and you can kind of see it in the data that we just had, that the average x-bar gets pulled towards the skewed tail. So we are I think that pretty much will wrap up what we're taking a look at in Chapter 2. Chapter 3, we're going to start really trying to interpret some of those things. Now that we know how to find the median, we understand what the box plot and the 5-number summary is, we're going to work on really interpreting some data and trying to make sense out of it.